Okay, so I normally don't review Angel Studios movies. I did a video on this a while back. Um, there's a whole reason for that. I'm not going to go into it. Give me a second to turn on it. And I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm not going to review every Angel Studios movie. If I end up seeing one at a Monday Night Mystery movie, or there's something about it I feel like I need to talk about, I'm just going to do it. And from now on, every animated one I'm going to do a video on. Just because I like animated movies, and I feel like animated movies are not are something I just like to talk about. So, and I have a video upcoming on my main channel about their Animal Farm project. We'll talk about that. But this movie I watched today, David. I wasn't really excited to watch. It was one of those things where I got sent home early from work, and they were playing an early screening around the same time I got sent home early from work. So I was like, "Fuck it, let's go check this out." Um, there are two things about this movie that you know were kind of interesting for me. First of all, it was a musical. Second, I have a lot of nostalgia for VeggieTales, and VeggieTales did this story, and I distinctly remember it. I don't remember anything about it, but I do remember that. So I thought this movie was fine. Uh, in fact, actually, no, I'll say it was better than fine. There's actually some pretty good moments in this movie. Um, when I was thinking about this movie, I was like, this isn't any Prince of Egypt, right? That is the best of all religious animated movies. You'll never be better than that movie. But this is a pretty good one. I still have my flaws with it, but and I don't like religious movies, but this is, you know, honestly, I have. Sometimes critics, you have to admit the truth about certain movies, even though it may like pain you in some ways. Like sometimes you have to admit, yeah, that movie was good, but it wasn't for me. And this is one of those examples. Like I can't sit here and tell you it's bad just because I don't like religious movies and I'd never watch this again. But I, because that's not true. I have to admit this is a good movie. I think the animation is a little weak, especially since this is a movie that does a lot of grand scale things, and it just needed more to it. This is a movie where, of course, this is a story of David. He fights the giant. Which, man, Goliath in this movie was awesome, and the voice that they did for that character was great. Um, and it almost made me sad when he died because I wanted to see more of that character. But you know, uh, but the animation goes from that to certain kingdoms and battles and all this stuff. It felt like though that a lot of this story definitely was condensed down. First of all, probably because it's been a long time since I've read like a lot of this religious text because I'm not a religious person anymore. But like it felt like they were scrubbing some of the darker parts of the story to make this a kids movie, and in which case I understand. But like it felt like there were certain points in the story like, oh, years got glossed over. Uh, Certain characters' relationship to certain countries got glossed over. Like, why are these people kidnapping all these other people? Just cause? Okay. Um, certain things like that. I mean, I know that there is religious context and history behind all that stuff, yada yada yada. Right, but like in the movie, they gloss over it, and I'm not sitting here relating religious texts again. It's been decades, well, not decades, but it's been at least probably a decade for me. I just not a religious person, but I don't know. I did so there was stuff like that. Um, but overall, I thought this movie had moments that didn't genuinely made me feel, and it actually tried. I think King of Kings was a worse movie because that felt like a movie that they released that was actually made for toddlers, and was like because it had that weird through line with the kid, and it felt like it was being made for toddlers, and 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 then it's like, that also had worse animation that made you go, why is this being released in the theater? Has no business being released in the theater. Or at least I'm like, it wasn't ugly to look at it, but on the big screen, it just needed more polishing to be on a big screen, but it still was good for what it was. The songs in this, I think this is one of those things of like, certain parts of the story are so weak that they didn't have like enough to make a real like full length long movie. So they added songs here, and the songs like are fine. Actually, a couple of them are good, I would say, but most of them are pretty forgettable. Now they're not a large portion of the movie, but it is one of those things of like, why is this a musical? Because one of those musicals that there's like enough pauses in between when the songs show up, and I don't know. I just think it's funny that this is a weird. I don't know. Would I recommend this movie? First off, I would say no, just on the basis that Angel Studios released this movie. But if you really are like one of those people who just genuinely doesn't care, then I guess go watch it. This is why I don't really like talking about religious movies, because most of the people who are gonna go watch it are gonna go watch it, right? They don't really care what I think, but I like talking about animated movies, so I decided to talk about this one. And I also think there is something that to be said about Angel Studios and their acquired content. That will be featured more in my Animal Farm video I got coming up on my main channel. I need to put that up at the same time I put this one up. So subscribe to my main channel if you want to know more thoughts on that.